The Demar Show. It's me. You're don't
Let's about a symbol central, bro. It's just come on.
holy mic. Your mic is that mic is bro. You said switch phones. Switch phones. No, what?
I don't
Switch phones.
let's just come on with the damn debate, man. So you
Bro,
said that
how
no
do you
no no
want me to
hold
wait,
hold,
wait, how do you want me to have a debate with you if
we're
I
gonna
can
meta
barely
debate
hear
on
you?
this. We're gonna meta debate on what was said real quick. So
No,
you
I'm trying to tell you. Hold on, I'm trying to. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you. I can barely hear you. Your mic is clear. So, like, how do you want me to like have a conversation with your mic with you,
your
and I
mic is
can
pretty
barely hear
bad.
you?
Hold on. Yo, Sheba, you
Okay.
hear me? Sheba, you hear me, right?
I mean, it sounds like you're trying to law mic, and it's failing horribly. What fucking phone are you on? You need to fix your settings because your background,
Yeah, I
bro.
can
Hey,
hear you.
bro, I'm gonna tell you this. Sometimes too loud can make your mic bad, bro.
Does it actually sound that bad though?
Yes, it do. You're loud. You're
Sounds
loud.
fuzzy.
You can be heard, but it's on ass. It's like trash quality. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like if you
Not
go
even
see
a
your
lot.
phone later, bro, it's some of the
Mike,
most ass quality mic ever, bro. It sounds like it generally sounds like you bought a $1 pair of headsets from like Dollar General or something, bro. You just tried to lie. Oh God, bro, that's how you sound, bro. I'm gonna be honest.
yo, all right,
Sounds
bro.
pretty bad.
You are, it's like this is the only available mic option unless like I get on my computer, which I haven't charged in like ages. So I'm gonna have to like, charge it if I want to actually debate. And it's like fucking dead
Bro,
now.
how about you try to fix your mic settings, like cut your noise suppression up, cut your echo cancellation on, like you see the grain slider, like take that from 0, put it up probably like 15 to zone out some of your background. How about you try to make it like that? Like right now, I got my noise suppression on none, so I'm gonna cut that shit on normal. And then
Jesus, fuck,
fix
that is holy shit. That is loud.
like
Yo, can you hear me better?
yeah, yeah. Now you sound a little better. You sound a little better.
All right, yeah, you want to like meta debate on what was said. You said so like what I'm generally like gaining from what you said like externally to this dialectic, which
Mhm.
just gave some form of intrinsic grounding for it to happen or be caused. What you said is if something goes against Islamic law, then we aren't Muslim, or we just don't have that belief as a
No,
Muslim. Are you saying
no, no,
that
no,
if you don't?
no.
I'm just asking for clarification. So like are
Okay,
you like
sure. Okay. Okay, sure. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what I actually mean by that. What I mean about if you go against what the Quran describes to be a Muslim or the Quranic definition of what they show us to be a Muslim, then you wouldn't be considered a Muslim since you're going against the core book of faith description on what that thing means. So essentially I'm saying you're going against the way that it is applied or described with your own book and your own faith is going against what it means to be a Muslim. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, that's basically what I just asked, and you just like
No,
answered
no,
that
no,
correct.
no, no. I don't.
Yes,
No, no,
yes,
no,
it
no,
is.
no. That's not. I don't care. Hold on. Let me say this. The law. Let me go and say what it means to be a Muslim isn't dependent upon the law. I'm not. I don't care about the law. I'm not taking the law point.
I never
What I'm
said the
saying
law.
is
I
that
said the law of the Quran is Islamic law.
yes,
Is
okay,
Islamic law.
yes.
It's a
I
nice
don't
strong
care
man.
about. Okay,
Strong man.
okay,
We're starting off strong, Demar. We are
Swamp,
very well.
Swampy,
We're starting off.
Swampy, can you chill? Can you chill? You're kind of trying to get aggressive. Okay, listen, what I'm telling you is that I don't care about that point. I don't care about the Quranic law. That's not my point. My point is that the way that the Quran describe a Muslim to be. See, I'm not attacking the law, I'm attacking the description. These are two separate arguments. You need to pay attention right quick. So I'm going to rephrase it for you. I'm saying that if you go against the way that a Muslim is described to be, aka the description on what they apply that said thing to be, then you yourself will be going against what it means to be a Muslim. I'm not saying if you're going against the Quranic law itself, that would tell you're not a Muslim. These are two separate arguments that they are similar, but there's a differential in these two separate arguments.
Yeah,
So
no,
you would take the point at hand.
there's no conceptual distinction between that because what the Quran describes as what a Muslim is someone who upholds the Islamic law, not some else which is distinct. Like, yeah, you could go ahead and sit there and say the basis for the argumentation, and then me asking like for clarification of that is distinct, but the same message is still the same, and you're still answering the same way because these are the conditionals to be a proper Muslim. So let me just actually counter like fact that like you saying that we won't be Muslim if we don't follow this. So basically, if we are not Muslim, if we don't follow this, that's basically just negating the whole entire point of sin and how we can like repent. Like, so let's just say, for an example, right? You sin within Islam or commit haram. You can repent for it. You're going against the Islamic law because what is not permissible is called haram. If you go against it, you are not upholding the Islamic law or upholding what a Muslim is supposed to be according to the Quran, which just grants pragmatic applicability to the sin thesis I'm using for some form of the principle of inference we're also using to gain the conclusion, right? So again, when I ask that question, right, basically, Islamic law is still obtained to how a person upholds it. That's what Muslim is described within the Quran. How they uphold it, and then how they are judged when they die on the day of judgment. How they uphold it within this test or this dunya is going to be accordance to their judging or judgment, which is basically good deeds and bad deeds. So again, what you're doing, there's no conceptual distinction between them. They're basically just the same thing, except there's different semantics and different synthetical distinctions. That doesn't imply that there's going to be a conceptual distinction or two different argumentations. There also, that's not even argumentation. That's a clarifying question. So it's not sequitur as well as that too. So like again, like yeah, that's about my
Okay,
position.
okay, sure, you're done. So let me first. I'll take the point on what you brought up about what it be believes to be a Muslim, because your whole argument, I don't think these people call this, but I call it basing on a grounded where you assume that your definition of what it means to be a Muslim is what the Quran asserts to be to be, aka. Let me go and break down your argument. Argument A would have to be is uh, Quran asserts the definition of Muslim to this, and that, aka asserting your own definition of what you describe a Muslim to be. Your argument, your argument, B would have to be if this is being the case, then B is also the case. This is where the error with your argument fails. Yes, your argument could be possible if you actually prove that the definition of living is how the Quran itself applies that said term to be, which you didn't actually provide evidence for, which is where your argument fails because you have no reliable sources to back up the definition of what you describe a Muslim to be. Two, uh, according to the source, just what is a Muslim to be is, according to the Quran, a Muslim is someone who submits to God's will and believes in His teaching. I don't believe every Islamic law comes from Allah Himself. If you want to debate on that topic, we can, but there's a certain Islamic laws according to the Quran itself that didn't directly came from Allah. So it wouldn't be a logically valid argument for us to sit right here and assert that a Muslim is someone who upholds Islamic teaching. Because if you really want to go into it, there's some Islamic teachers who tell you how to live life. There's Islamic teachers who tell you how to put on your clothes. There's even Islamic teachers tell you how you have to use the bathroom if you actually want to go into different forms of Islamic laws. None of the Islamic laws came from directly or indirectly from Allah Himself, as there's no form of evidence or to back that up. But we do know they came from certain prophets or certain disciples of the prophets of prophet for how a Muslim should live. So that's where your argument fails. Two, to get some backup evidentials and examples on why my argument is a valid argument and more valid to be the case than yours. I'm for to present you with this argument. We have Hindus, Christians, and Muslims. Each of these groups all believe that in order to be a Muslim or in order to be a Hindu or in order to be a believer of God, you must follow in God morality rules. All of these religions all believe that thou should not murder is or that thou in the thou should not murder law, aka if you murder with the intent or you going in with the intent to kill, then therefore that will be considered a sin. That do not directly make all Christian Muslims or all Muslim Christians or all Hindus Muslims. If you're going to argue from a law point, then I could just sit right here and argue common laws shared up on these faiths. And even when it comes to Christians and Islamic laws directly, most of the laws are unanimously agree with each other. So that's where your argument fails. Argument number three, I feel like this to be the case. Again, me saying A Muslim is someone who describes, or how the Quran describes it, which is someone who submits to God Himself. I'm going to present to you this. There are Muslims who act, or there are some terrorists who act on what Islamic laws tell them to be, which is attack people who oppose the belief of Islam. Do you consider now, if we were to ask the faithful question to any Muslim scholar, do you consider these terrorists? And if you want me to do this, I can go pull over this question that actually asked two Islamic scholars in order to outline what they believe what Muslim is. The general question was asked, do you consider these terrorists who act or did act off of the Islamic law to be Muslim? Majority of them said, majority, if not all, said no. The reasons why is because, yes, you are acting off of Islamic law, but is you actually acting off the morality law between what Allah presented? There's a difference between morality law and Islamic law. Islamic laws will make a Muslim a Muslim. It's more of a title that can be given to a certain person. What makes a person a believer in God or a believer in Allah is following the morality system which Allah said. And I'm sorry if you believe praying 5 times a day is one of those laws that was said by Allah. You haven't read your Quran, because even in your Quran, Allah Himself opposed this belief. So if you really want to argue from the basis of law, majority of the laws that y'all given or that y'all was given, Allah Himself opposed these set laws. The reason why y'all even have these common laws, or even are able to follow these set laws, is because Muhammad himself had argued with Allah on why these laws should be more logical to use on what make, or when it comes to being a Muslim, or when it comes to following the Islamic faith. Because last time I checked, if you were to go read your scripture, and if you want me to pull up, and if you want me to pull the Thor and ayah, I can. Actually, I'm actually going to do it now. When Muhammad had went up there to Allah first, when Allah had said the prayer should be more, I'm pretty sure it was more than 5 times. I'm pretty sure it was 25 times 50, or it was a number, but it wasn't the number 5. Muhammad himself had to argue with Allah and say, "Oh no, it's not going to be this. It's going to be 5 times a day." So that law itself was created by Muhammad. It wasn't opposed. It wasn't imposed or created by Allah himself. If you generally want to argue from a law standpoint. So now I'm going to put a couple burdens on you because you made a couple points. First, you will have to prove by the description and content that we given with the side of the Quran, with the side of the Quran, aka examples that show that your definition of what a Muslim is aligns with what the book itself entails. I already sent evidence, and if you want me to, I can send more evidence, which prove that it aligns with my definition more than your definition. Two, if you want to argue for the law point, you would have to make a distinction on what it means to be Christian, on what it means to be Muslim, and on what it means to be Hindu via the law point. I don't care about the gods they directly believe in, because again, you yourself said a Muslim is a person who upheld and believe in Islamic law, not a person who then tell or who believes in a God like Allah. Again, because you made that argument when I told you that He opposes what Allah entails. So your argument that you make the refutation towards what was a refutation towards me arguing that in order to be Muslim, you have to follow and believe in the teachings of Allah. So now you cannot argue from the Allah point or from the teachings of Allah point, because again, that's the position I'm arguing from. And if you were to sit right here and try to take the position in order to negate my argument, you're just going to be essentially proving the position that I'm taking. Now, I'm gonna let you go ahead and give your argument. Now, I hope you understand everything that I said. Go ahead, prove your burdens, and go ahead and attack my arguments.
Okay, so first of all, I don't think that burden is going to have any actual pragmatical applicability right here, because first of all, I didn't say this is the core akida, or rather what a fucking Muslim is, right? So basically, what I said, or rather gave the analytical model to derive from the inference of the Quran, I said this is describing what a proper Muslim is. A proper Muslim is distinct from a Muslim. A Muslim can be a bad Muslim. It could be invoking any distinct sect. It's not going to be universal, because there are distinct sets and conceptually distinct sets. Like, say, for example, proper Muslims versus bad Muslims. The example you gave about terrorists. We could sit here and say terrorists are munafiqs because they go against what the Quran says, right? And they don't directly uphold it. That's the definition of what a bad Muslim can be. They don't uphold it according to you, right? Because that's what you said earlier. And then again, right, let's go back to the point I made about proper Muslims, right? I'm not saying this is what a Muslim is. I'm saying this is what a Muslim is if they uphold it. See, there's a conditional within that which you didn't track. And I'm going to explain it for you so we can go over this betterly and we can actually dive into something with substance rather than pulling premises out of your ass like Muhammad Hijab. And that's kind of embarrassing because he's an Islamic debater too, man. And I'm admitting that he's like kind of ass right here, man. But like still, what I'm saying is that this is just a straw man of what my position is gonna be. My position, or rather what set up this entire debate on what a Muslim is, or rather what a proper Muslim is. And yeah, what a Muslim is completely outside of a proper Muslim. Yes, we know that belief within Allah is going to be a conditional to be a proper Muslim. But that's, according to you, the definition of a Muslim. A proper Muslim has much more conditions to fulfill or gain criteria for it to actually have pragmatism, right? Again, you didn't track this. So we're bringing up this point, and the reason why it negates the burden of proof, and the reason why I would have to prove with these scriptures it fits my definition, because, again, you're going off a completely distinct definition and then creating an entire whole another meta debate about what a Muslim is, or just another entire discussion about what a Muslim is and not what a proper Muslim is. I'm identifying the key cores, or rather, what the key conceptual distinctions are between these categories, Demar. So what you did right here was just place a fucking non-existent burden of proof. And yeah, that's for the first point, right? And actually, I want to couch something what you said. You said this law came from the Prophet, peace be upon him. No, you do realize that for a law to be in place or upheld, it doesn't matter if he argued with Allah. Yes, he argued with Allah, and this convinced Allah to make it. It's just that the idea is derived from him, but he didn't make the law. Allah made the law objective. He made it morally real. He made the objective truth within the Islamic worldview. So, no, the Prophet did not come up with this law or will this law. It's derived from his argumentation and convinced Allah. So he did not make this law. He gave a moral framework using epistemic discovery to help fulfill his wishes and try and reason with Allah. See, there's a conceptual distinction about creating a law and then therefore willing a law, right? Creating a law is the same thing as willing a law, and basically you just form the law objectively within this context speaking right here, right? And again, let's go back to that point about creating something and having the idea about something. You can have an idea about something, right? But does that necessarily mean the idea is going to have any sort of actual realism within the world? No, it kind of does not. You can have the idea, like say for example, I come up with a storybook, right? Is this story real? I can derive it from logical factors. I can create something like, say for example, historical fiction. You know, like the Boston Tea Party, right? I can create a historical fiction and say this something happened during this time within this story or this framework that's conceivable via the idea. So the law, or rather the derivation of the law for the idea of Prophet Muhammad, it's within a framework that has, or rather has the potentiality to exist depending upon the action of Allah. Right? So in this case, I'm just saying it's a moral constructivism argumentation, not something that's going to be objective. Moral constructivism tries to argue objective truths, but that doesn't necessarily mean the framework itself or being provided within this framework is going to actually have any form of substance for life or being grounded by a form of substance. It's just a framework which is presented so it can be carried out. Like, say, for example, utilitarianism, right? Like utilitarianism or like idealist. It's different variations or models that can help balance out society. Does this necessarily mean these ideas are going to be the objective truth which can help us? No, but it's a method which can be enacted. So my main point is that it has potentiality to fulfill this. His argumentation had potentiality to convince Allah. There's an ontological distinction between the Prophet and Allah. Allah creating this would signify it's ultimately grounded or pragmatically grounded by Allah, or Allah is the ultimate substance for the existence of this set of contingent things or conditioned things, because it's conditioned upon Him to exist. So again, it's just potentiality to exist or convince Allah to make it exist. That's the argumentation here. So that again, like, now I'm just gonna call red hair for that because that didn't freaking matter to the conversation, because like you're talking about like Allah making the law, like it didn't matter to the topic about what makes a proper Muslim. It just matters how someone follows the law, not if Allah created that. That's just red herring. It's like completely irrelevant to the argumentation. And that's also just like an invalid inference principle. You didn't actually conjunct or propositionally conjunct the logical rigors. It's kind of bad out here, man. Like, it's a slaughter. Like, and then moving on to this. No, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. So here comes the second point about Islamic scholars. You do realize that the Quran tells us to make our own interpretation to things that's within the Quran. And again, you do realize that like laws, like most of the things from the Quran we just have a dogmatic attitude upon the framework of the Quran, like coming from Allah or something like that. We just have it or take it that it's the word sent down with the Prophet. It was revealed from Allah. So the laws within pertaining to this would mean that this set of laws, or the invoked set universally within this set, token distinction to all laws within Islam, is going to be upheld as this. If we follow these laws, right? And not to mention, I will grant that not all laws for Islam are following as a Muslim are made by Allah, because let's go back to the Hadiths real quick. Let's go back to the Hadiths. Ready for this one? I'm gonna blow your mind because it's gonna be like some form of amping too, man. Like it's just gonna blow your mind. It's so good. Like it's so knowledge filled. Like, come on, man. You gotta like really notice. Like I'm helping you, man. Like hold up. Like I saw you since you were a child. I came into your room, right? I picked you up. I'm like, Demar, I think I'm gonna amp you on Islam. I'm gonna make you a Muslim debater after this too. I think this is a really great opportunity to do this. It was after our first encounter back in the doorway of death. I remember this, man. Like, it just came back to me as like a sudden spark, man. Like, it was something telling me that this was destiny. I had to rule out destiny. I had to take the Infinity Stones, just like Thanos. And I had to. So now I'm going to go on to the second point, and I'm going to finish. So, okay, finish. No, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Demar, why are you trying to cut me off? I'm not done yet, so I'm going to go now. Ready? So, I granted that all laws within Islam or following Islam are not granted, because we must accept the Prophet and follow the Prophet as a conditional for our submission to Allah. And yes, like say for example, that doesn't necessarily mean that like these things also created from like other like people too, because like He is Allah's messenger. Each rule He applies is from Allah. He is the messenger of Allah. He gives the messages which Allah will be happy if we are granted, or rather, we grant that this rule is being applied, or rather upheld by a certain Muslim, or rather just acts within the framework, right? Within the framework of the Hadith right here, it being conceivable by this, let's just say that, Prophet Muhammad was capable of making a law, and it was contingent from him. It was like a set of all contingent things for this specific thing in the set, right? And he says that Allah will be pleased if we upheld this. It's a distinct law from what Allah created and not His creation. Why would Allah be happy if we upheld distinct provisions of laws? So again, that would already bring a contradiction to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, being a messenger of Allah himself and wanting us to fulfill our dunya or test so we can fulfill Allah. That would contradict his entire point to exist. That just leads us to a modal class where the truth table does not add up. There's no modus tonus here where it's like, the Prophet Muhammad makes laws. Q. Therefore, we fulfill this laws because we follow the Prophet Muhammad. No, it does not work like that because there's contradictions within him. He gets these laws from Allah and he tells us to uphold it. We must follow the Prophet's words because they are the messages of Allah. He's only fulfilling it and carrying us to it. Therefore, if we follow what the Prophet says, we are also following Allah and how we want this, okay? So that's about the second point. Now for your final point, because you were on a Yap Fest about terrorists and Islamic scholars. Again, you do realize that the Quran tells us to make our own interpretation as well. But the own interpretation of it is what we derive as a cognitive framework. We are using this cognitive framework as the principle of inference. Or rather, to grant a sign thesis that actually has structure of truth. That is like a truth maker for the conceivability of the proposition. It's the truth assigner to that. Or rather, gives the truth actualization or a model of argumentation which grounds it. Right? So if we use the Quran as this form of substance, right, we are interpreting differently from scholars. Scholars, right, they're highly held regard, but that doesn't necessarily mean what they say is going to be objective either. It's just really well justified interpretations of the Quran. There's no conceptual distinction between us and them, how we make their choices. It's still the same thing intrinsically speaking. It's just the different cognitive frameworks and epistemic discovery. It's just distinct methodologies, but still the same thing. So yeah, I think I'm kind of done with that point.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone, give him a round of applause because he just buried himself in a deep hole. And what he did was try to use a lot of this guy's how you actually debunk someone and beat someone ass by using their own methods. Thank you for using all the logical rhetoric, which you don't actually know what it means, Swampy, but it's time to go ahead and bury you in a deep hole. First, again, your whole argument is fallacious. The reason why, because if you actually understand the first two parts of your own argument, which I'm pretty sure you don't, you're just yapping at this point, you will understand that your whole argument is based upon a point of whether your definition fit the descriptions on how the Quran described it. The word Muslim originated from the Quran itself, meaning that in this case, if you're going to describe someone to be a Muslim, you're going to have to go based on the descriptions on what the Quran itself applied these set people to be. You cannot sit right here and make your own interpretation on what it means to be Muslim, because if we're going to go based off that, and if you're going to go based on the point that the Quran itself says you can make your own interpretation, I'm just going to sit right here and argue that Muslims are Satanists, which then is going to lead us to a discord where I'm no longer going to be fucking studying whether Muslims are proper Muslims. It's just going to go into your whole argument that Muslims at this point of time are just people who believe in the devil and not actually God. You want to go based on what an interpretation of what a Muslim be. So you don't want to go that route because that route going to lead to the fallacious interpretations. Second, you say that the Quran itself tells y'all to make your own interpretation of things, which you never ever read the Quran in your life. I'm pretty sure I have to find the verse that actually tells and agree with me. But I actually found I actually got a study that was conducted inside of an Islamic discussion where the Quran itself, and we know this by the way, going based on context on what the Quran itself describes you to be. Even when it comes to Surah 10, Ayah 94, I believe the Quran itself tells Muhammad to go seek knowledge, not to make your own interpretation. AK, when you are a doubt, to go to the people who read the scriptures before you, not necessarily going based off your own interpretation. I don't get unless you can provide evidence or to support that. I don't get where you say the Quran itself tells Muslims to make their own interpretation of things, because as I know it, when we go read passages in the Quran, there's multiple suggestions or multiple intelligence where the Quran or even Allah himself, it shall call them, and tells Muslims to actually seek knowledge of truth and instead of making their own interpretation of the system. Actually, according to the study itself that was conducted inside of an Islamic discussion, inside an Islamic discussion. By the way, if you're going to sit right here and mock evidence that I'm giving, you have to present some form of evidence yourself, which you would never did, by the way. So if you want to sit right here argue, oh, Demar, you're showing something, it was still a part of an Islamic threat, and those people in the Islamic threat are 99% or more likely are people who know what they're talking about, right? So again, according to Islamic threat, unless you can provide evidence that disagree with it, Muslims themselves all agree that the Quran itself itself states that it opposes your own interpretation on things. And right now, I'm actually trying to find the surah because I believe there's also a surah where Allah Himself entails not to make your own interpretation of the Quran. So right now I'm trying to find that. But to get back to my argument. So your whole argument again is based upon the ground whether your definition is reliable based on or not. I'm simply attacking the reliability of your definition or the way you describe a Muslim to be. So I'm gonna get this in your head. In order for you to sit right here and argue there's a difference between a proper Muslim and a Muslim, or a proper Muslim and a bad Muslim, you're going to have to provide some form of evidence of a definition of it of Muslims that is described by the Quran that agrees with the way you described it to be, which you didn't do yet. So your whole argument seemingly falls at the point it got no evidence or statistics to back it up, so we can even go based off your argument in the first place. Your argument essentially have no basis since but you have no basis for your argument. That's what the fuck I've been trying to tell you. Secondly, I'm gonna go ahead and take the red herring here because red herring is when a person argues argues irrelevant arguments or irrelevant things in connection to a set in connection to a point on which beyond. I don't think me bringing up the definition of what a Muslim is according to the Quran or giving examples that can provide evidence for why this definition of Muslim or the way Muslim are described is according to the way I describe a Muslim it, to be an irrelevant argument because it still have connection to the main point on which I'm arguing based on. They just to attack your irrelevant point because you simply don't know how to fucking argue fallacy. Second, to attack you saying right here and say I put false burdens on you again. Your whole false burden argument is seemingly just based upon a ground that you yourself provided evidence to prove your definition, which you did not. So again, I'm just going to dismiss that via the Hench's razor because you got no evidence or no basis towards that argument in the first place. Thirdly, if I really want to, I can really sit right here and read just dismiss all your argument by your Hench's razor, then argue based off that because you seem to provide no evidence in order to back anything up. All you did was just gave arguments or claims on top of other arguments or claims on top of other arguments or claims, without actually giving us any statistics in order to back it up, any description according to the Quran in order to back it up, any hadith, which you actually quoted a hadith by the way, that him himself still didn't give. AK, when he said, Demar, look, let me go to this hadith. Where's the hadith that you still didn't give it, by the way? So again, you're simply just saying right here, pinpoint or saying you're going to these direct sources or saying that you're using these set things, but actually are providing evidence that you actually using these set things. Now, again, I'm gonna go ahead and get back to my main points, and I'm gonna go ahead and present more arguments. Again, Swampy, I don't know how I'm gonna break this down to you, but I'm gonna go ahead and end you right here. First, the definition of what a Muslim is according to the Quran, because again, we're arguing based off how the Quran itself describes them. I don't care about interpretation. I already provided evidence to you that the Quran itself suggests that you shouldn't impose interpretation on the Quran. And if you're going to argue from that standpoint, then I'm simply just going to argue that Allah isn't Allah, that Prophet Muhammad isn't Prophet Muhammad, that he isn't a prophet, or that Allah isn't a God, which then just going to which then just going to break down the whole argument about you arguing whether proper Muslim itself exists. Now, the definition of Muslim that I gave and the definition of Muslim that the Quran itself described it to be is someone who upholds Allah or someone who believes in Allah's oneness and also upheld the morality view or the morality active of Allah. Not to attack your Muhammad part for you arguing that Muhammad just simply giving us law that Allah Himself had imposed. There's no form of evidence within the Quran itself that actually suggests that Allah Himself agrees with Muhammad. If you were to go read that verse, or we were to go, aka Surah or the Ayah, Surah, if we were to go read the Surah itself and tells that Muhammad and Allah never came to an agreement. And again, you're saying right here and say Muhammad used an emphastical reason or emphastical justification in order to prove his point to Allah, or in order to get Allah to, or in order to reason with Allah. That would kind of just oppose a doubt in my mind, or I'm pretty sure a doubt in all these people's mind on why a prophet should even use emphastical logic, something that, by the way, which is the way that God thinks. I believe that God thinks logically. I believe in Allah. I mean, I believe in the Islamic faith. Y'all believe God thinks logically. But if Allah is truly God, which will bring some doubt among these believers of Islam who's in BC, hearing you say this stuff, by the way, If he is truly God, why would a logical being who thinks logically have to be proven wrong or have to be reasoned by a human being which God, which Allah Himself, or which y'all trying to tell Allah Himself created in order for that human being to use logical reasoning, which again is the way that Allah thinks in order to get reason with Him. I mean, that should be the way that Allah Himself entails or think in the first place. Now, I'm simply about to refute your argument by doing this 1 2 step thing. First, I'm about to check whether Muhammad is actually a prophet or not, because I don't believe Muhammad is a prophet, because the definition of a prophet is someone who prophesies something. Allah Himself, Muhammad himself never made a prophecy or never prophesied anything. So I'm just going to argue him to just be a man who used Allah or used God or who used the title of a prophet in order to make money and get things to riches instead of actually being an actual prophet. So that right there going to debunk your whole argument, because your whole argument based upon the grounds on whether Muhammad himself is an actual prophet. Two, now for the state right here in the text, Allah being actual God. I don't think a God can be disproven by a human being, and I definitely don't think a God who thinks logically can be debunked by hypothetical logical reason, which is something that this God himself created. That would kind of just be fallacious up in Allah beings. And also two, Allah himself never ever suggests or never also argument number, I think I'm on argument number four, my bad. I made an error. Also argument number four, unless you can provide actual evidence that Allah made majority of the thoughts on what you're trying to oppose that Allah did, then I'm simply just going to dismiss your whole argument by your hinges razor, just like that. Which I can do to every single one of your arguments. You should provide no evidence to back up any one of these, by the way. Argument number six, since you want to go on a yapper term, by the way, for you pointing directly to what a hadith or a hadith scripture simply to provide evidence. I wanted to miss that by your hinges razor too, because you also provide no evidence for that. Argument number seven, about you arguing that the definition of a Muslim is, or the definition of a terrorist, something that's an improper Muslim. Since you didn't give us no definition or no description or no evidence to back up your description or definition of what you believe a Muslim to be, that's presented by the Quran itself, I'm gonna just miss that by his razor, because you also didn't prove that, by the way. Your whole argument, by the way, the red herring hinges razor, no justification by that, since your whole argument or the basis of your argument not have no basis to stand up on. What else? What else? I already missed that red herring. What else did you try to fucking argue? You didn't attack the point when I argued that if you're gonna argue based off the law point, if you're gonna argue based off the law point, Muslims, Christians, and Hindus all believe in the exact same laws or have similarities or have direct connection within a law, what they believe or what they believe or worship. So if you're going to argue from the law, I could just call Hindus Muslims or Muslims Christians. If you're going to argue from that projective view on what it means to be a Muslim or what it means to be a Christian or what it means to be a Hindu. You didn't attack that. You didn't attack their argument. So you didn't attack their argument. If you try to attack it right now, by the way, I'm just going to call backtracking the whole time. So you don't want to do that for me. Argument number what? 8, pitches razor, because you didn't provide anything for that one. 9, you tried to use some form of conjectural reason or something, but you actually gave no reason. You actually gave no reason to support the argument itself. That's another hinges razor. You see where I'm going to go with this now? You're essentially using all these rational form of thinking, but you're providing no evidence or no justification for any one of those. So I could just call hinges razor on everything you fucking argue, and then you're just going to lose by that. So I'm not done. Go ahead and mute your mic. No, go ahead and mute your mic. No, go ahead and mute your mic. Let me put belt to ass. I'm not done. Like you said, right? Like you said mute your mic, right? Yeah, go ahead and mute your mic before I mute myself. Yeah, no. Let's play your game. You wanted to play it, Seiba. Let's play your game. Go ahead and mute your mic. You want to do rational thinking. You want to sit right here and try to rat. You want to sit right here and debate like this. So now I'm about to go ahead and you with this one argument. If now I'm going to go ahead and bring this. I won this debate. Seiba, this is a question. This is where you can answer my question and then shut the fuck up so I can finish my argument. You get that? Yeah, that's how that goes. So I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to answer the question. I'm going to let you answer the question. Then you're going to shut the fuck up and let me finish my argument. Seiba, I won the debate. Do you acknowledge my argument? Yes or no, Seiba?
Like bury your body. You know what? I think we could just move past this because I don't think it holds any relevancy.
No. We're not.
Wait,
no.
Okay, wait. Ask for clarity.
Let me go ahead and check that. I think it hold relevance.
Okay, so
Hold on. I think it hold relevance.
No, I need a question.
Hold on. I think it hold relevance to the discussion.
I need
Hold
some.
on. Let me go ahead
I
and
need
attack that point right
certainty.
quick because you said we can go ahead and move past this. You don't think it hold any relevance. Let me attack that right quick. So again, I can re-ask you my question so you can answer it. I think it hold relevant to discussion as a whole because essentially discussion is about which one of us gonna win this topic, or essentially we arguing about which one of us is correct on this set point. Me making that action, or me making an argument, or me making a suggestion that I won this point is just that I won this point, and then asking you, do you acknowledge their argument? It's essentially me trying to provide more reason on why I actually want the subject at hand, which is what the entire subject is all about. So I gave you the reason on why it's directly connected to the argument as a whole, not just the argument in parts. Again, us arguing about what it means to be a Muslim is just part of the argument. Us arguing about the hadith is just part of the argument. Us arguing about who Allah is or who Prophet Muhammad is, all of that, Seiba, is just part of our argument. You get what I'm trying to get you now. So I gave you the reason.
Okay,
Now to
so
re-ask you
in
the
your
question, Seiba,
so
I won the debate. Do you acknowledge my argument? Yes or no? Simple
I'm
question,
gonna
bro.
need, yeah, I'm gonna need clarity on what acknowledge means. Like, are you like asking if I acknowledge its truth value, or like, are you just asking like I acknowledge it in a way to where I would be able to refute it, but I still uphold that it's being used as a counter initiative? Do you like
Okay,
both of those
so
like,
you, so you,
contest one? I
so
need context
okay,
clues.
okay, I get your question, bro. So you essentially asking me what do I describe acknowledge to be? My definition of acknowledge is to accept or admit the existence or the truth of a set thing. So do you say, but let me rephrase it for you. So do you say, but and I'm letting you know, I'm gonna let you know this right now before you try to sit right here and argue around this shit regardless of which one of these directions you go, Saber, because now you're dropping a question, by the way. And if you don't answer it, I'm just going to say you upheld the dialectic. I'm letting you know what I'm going to do. So you should win this debate. Since you want to sit right here and argue on rhetoric, I'm going to show you that there's levels to this shit. Now, I'm going to tell you, regardless of which direction with this you go, you're going to fucking lose. So do you, Saber, acknowledge the existence of or the truth of my argument? I made a distinction between truth and existence. You see? So now, answer the question.
I don't accept your truth value of the argumentation. I will agree that your argumentation is existing to try and put up an argumentation or counter initiative against mine, but that does not make it true in any sort of framework. Not any sort of framework, just the framework here. It does not make it true. So when we talk about truth and etc., right? There's a distinction on how something is upheld or assigned where it has conceivability and justification towards it. So why the synthesis would like be that is true, right? So existing doesn't have to mean or just gather that like because I already know where this rat is going. I used this rat before because like this rat is just gonna argue that like if I agree it's existing, then it's gonna have like some form of like fucking truth value if I like proposition shit like that. You're gonna just like conjunctive shit like that. Yeah, so no, I'm gonna explain the distinctions between existing and truth values. Truth values are assigned to something that exists, right? And there's false values. When we talk about something existing, if the argumentation existing, right, is still true or not, when you argue or accept both of these options, you agree that the argumentation can be given some form of conceivability, or rather be derived from your epistemic discovery to give some form of structure as a counter initiative. And
Oh,
again, and a counter initiative does not mean it's going to upheld that it's right or that you still won, right? Because I know where this rat is going. It does not mean you win or anything or you uphold truth. Like, you can give a counter initiative, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to actually be sequitur or anything that attacks the points being there or either way. So, again, you can ask me that question. I can just sit there and say that maybe it like exists, but it doesn't necessarily mean the counter initiative is going to be true or actually correspond to give some form of actual substantiation to your stance. That's why I'm gonna like give that context so I can give an answer and escape this damn trap you're trying to use because you're ratty as fuck. Like, also, after you're done arguing, I'm gonna blow the fuck out of your damn argumentation. Then we're gonna go to
Okay,
conclusions. Right?
okay, stop, Seiba. Now, again, Seiba, notice how I haven't been trying. You're struggling against it. Demar that's not trying. I'm just trying to show you that, bro, stop stepping to me. There's levels to this shit. You're not on my level where you're literally just trying to step to me. And if you want to use this logical rhetoric, which is what I'm doing, now I'm about to beat the fuck out of you with what you just argued. I'm not about to correct your argument or anything. I'm about to take your own argument. Now I'm about to beat the fuck out of you with it. And then you gonna concede after this because you're not gonna have a way around it. Now watch these guys. Step one. First, since you acknowledge the existence of my argument, since you acknowledge the existence of my argument, you acknowledge my argument to be real or to have a quality state of existence, aka which just means to be real. Since you already acknowledge that my argument itself entails a quality of being real or to have some form of state of existence provided to a set being, you yourself acknowledge my argument to exist within an objective reality system, because I don't believe subjective things are real or subjective things have a quality of being a state of existence as in the metaphor of existence means to be real. That's the definition of existence I'm going based on, unless you can oppose another definition unless you can give us another definition that oppose my tell me on what I think that things is. We can just take my definition to be the most logical order to go with. Argument number three. Again, I'm breaking this down with you and I'm telling you what I'm about to fucking do to you because you're about to lose. Argument number three. Since you acknowledge that my argument have a state to be real, the definition of true just means the definition of true means to be means to have the quality of true, means to have the quality of true. What it means to be true by the interlude definition is just something that is in accordance with reality, accurate or genuine. First, since you already acknowledge my argument have the state of existence or have the quality of reality pertaining to it, you already unanimously agree that my argument itself is in accordance of reality. Cannot agree with the first one, then don't agree with the second one, or else you're just going to be opposing contradictory within your own logic, within your own argument on which you gave, which again just going to lead to you conceding a point. So again, that's what I'm telling you. No matter which direction you go off this, I'm about to beat your fucking ass. It's either you're about to lose to this shit or you're about to lose to me saying you argue from a contradictory standpoint because you fucking suck. You're not good. And I want to let you know
I swear, retard. I'm
your
gonna try
ass. And I
to
want to let you know
try
that
to
the
shit.
fuck I'm being
I
a
get
gut
no,
for
no,
it
no,
because
no,
you
no,
wanted
no.
to insult
We're
me.
gonna
And I'm
do this,
gonna
okay?
let
We're
you
gonna do
fucking know,
this.
nigga.
Finish it.
Before I finish whooping your goddamn ass, that you will never, ever, ever in your life, Seiba, be able to beat
Oh my
me,
gosh.
nigga. You would never ever be on my level. You would never be close to me. You would never ever be able to breathe near me. Remember this, nigga. I am fucking Demar, the same nigga that was at the best at one period of time, the same nigga who probably beat your favorite debater, the same nigga who was the youngest at the point of time at the age of 10, the youngest debater to ever be able to accept the title of being the fucking best. You don't know who the fuck I am, but now you're gonna know who I am. You think I suck, but that's just me not fucking trying. I'm gonna show you me trying, and I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you. Now, again, I'm gonna finish my argument now. I'm gonna
No,
tell
no,
you
no,
what
no,
I'm about
no.
to do.
We moved
See,
to a
but
different
now
time.
I'm about to
I'm gonna
argue.
finish.
See, but
It's
now I'm
how
about
they
to argue
honor.
since you
No,
agree
no,
that my
no,
stuff
no,
have
no,
the
no, no.
quality of
They do
truth, a
this.
truth to it. If the definition of
No,
or
no,
the
no,
act
no,
of being true
no.
just mean to have the quality of reality
So,
or the quality of
let
existence,
me help
you
you.
yourself have now
Let me
conceded
help
to the
you.
point. If you were
So,
to
yo,
attack this
Demar,
argument, which I know you wouldn't be, since you already agreed that my stuff have the quality or the state of
I
existence,
agree it's
if you were
objective,
to
so
oppose
I do
that
not
argument,
see it's
then you
subjective.
yourself going to be
As evidence, right?
you agree, you're contradicting your own action, which
As a
then going to lead to me,
calculation,
Seiba,
it is seen
arguing
to
that
exist in
you
a
yourself
calculation,
had opposed a
having truth
contradiction.
in its
Since
function.
both things cannot be
You're
true at
using a
once,
force
that would just be
analysis
leading to
reality.
me saying your
And
argument is a valid
that's
argument.
reality.
Therefore, you no longer have an argument to contend with my point. Therefore, we're just leading to
I
you
argue
conceding the
that it
point.
exists
Therefore, leading
as a
to you losing
constant,
the debate. So, are you
not
ready? Oh,
necessarily as truth in any way.
finish,
So that's going to be a
finish,
strong and not centered on your
finish,
case. I argued the
finish,
fact that it's going to be a subjective
finish.
viewpoint and
This y'all men, by the
argumentation
way.
to my
This y'all men.
subjective
This y'all men struggling.
it's
Niggas
such a
struggling
fucking
against
retard.
niggas
It's
struggling against a
that
first grader argument. This y'all
you're
men, by
so
the way.
bad to ask.
Speak your
some
man,
actually has
Kyrie.
no. Some
Speak your
actually has
man.
honest
Hey, I'm
reality.
about to go on Jackson. I don't
It's an
even need to
actual
hear your
variable
argument. Let me
and
know when you're
actual
done.
model operating
Let
within
me
this
know when
framework.
you're done.
A model operating when it exists within this framework or is conceived within the framework. I do not agree it's conceivable within a framework where reality is upheld. I'm arguing to the point that the argumentation is conceived. The argumentation being conceived is
You
distinct
done?
from the
Okay, he's
truth
not done
value.
yet.
No. It's
I'm about to go on
distinct from the
Jackson. I don't
truth
need to
value
hear your argument.
of
You
the
just
argumentation
made
existing. It being truthful within the correspondence to reality is distinct of the argumentation being able to be conceived within reality. The argumentation can be used as a counter initiative, but this does not mean it's going to be upheld truthfully. As I said, I gave an example for this and gave some form of substance which can help uphold the principle of inference. Say, for an example, I upheld that an argumentation can be made, right? I can agree this argumentation exists, but not the truth value in which it exists, because there's a distinction between the truth of the
Oh
argumentation
my God,
existing
you're yapping,
and
bro.
the
You done, bro?
argumentation
You
out of the
done?
argumentation
Right, all right.
existing.
I'm letting you
So
know.
let's
I'm
be
letting you know
careful
you opening
because
all
you're
of this
telling me
for
shit.
no.
You can't actually
All
track
right,
that
chill,
because
chill, chill,
you're
chill, chill,
fucking
chill.
retards. Nobody's fucking letting you. You're fucking random who's ass. You're
Bro,
fucking
thing
ass.
is, collector, can you get your man? You get it badly. There's no
Oh my god.
competition,
You
bro.
did.
This is literally Tyson
Bro,
Fury versus
bro,
Floyd
you
Mayweather, bro.
flag for bro. Don't fight flag for bro before you get murdered. Don't get fight flag for bro before you get murdered, bro. Please, please,
Actually attack anything. Now I'm gonna
please,
actually fucking explode this nothing. You can pass. You're fucking shit to the fucking Funko Pop, you big headed ass nigga. Shut your stupid ass up. Anyways, now it's my turn. Oh my gosh.
you know you
So
losing.
ready for
You
this one?
losing when you have to
Ready?
resort to insult.
No.
Listen
Okay,
to that.
you said
You're getting a
alright.
clown.
I did not say alright.
Throw in,
I just see
bro.
with
Collector,
limitations.
throw
I
in,
said
throw in
this.
this nigga
He
White House. Throw
something.
in this
All
nigga
right,
White House. Bleed
all
hell.
right.
Really broke, bro. Throw in this White
If
House.
you do this, it's going to be false and not fair. Actually, cannot stack. After that, you know, happens. And just check that. That's not the definition. I'm going to give us a local definition. But it's not it's keep the master. Their mission is for the teaching, delivering the messages of God. That's
Oh
basically
my
what's
God,
that definition. You're the one who's trying to just prove it by some saying he was the one who was the money. So hold on. We can run actually to conclusions. We can just run some.
Seiba, are you gonna let Demar talk or what?
No, because he can off this entire time. I'm tired of this fucking fat ass retard. Fucking
I mean, you're
Nigga, are
losing.
you debating or are you attacking a nigga? Goddamn.
like,
He's
I'm
losing.
tired of fat ass retard fucking
Hey,
me
hey,
off.
Seiba, hey,
Such shit
Seiba,
out
hey,
of it.
Seiba,
I don't
listen,
know
Seiba, I
what
haven't assaulted you not once.
I'm
I haven't assaulted
he
you
actually
not once, Seiba. You've been getting beat the whole time. And this is the problem with you. You don't understand when you lost the debate that you resort to insult. Really deep, Seiba. Really deep. Really deep. This is a honor, bro. This is the
Stop
worst.
arguing with me.
Someone, please, help
Seiba,
me get this man out of
Seiba,
the arena.
Oh my
You
gosh.
lose badly. I'm breaking his
Seiba.
heart.
One can be affected contingently by actually this applies to keep seven. It's not just a little decision, right? So let's come to this. Let's go to this one. You said Jesus proved his God or logically disproved when he accepted his laws. There would be a contradiction for him to be proved or be defeated using another continuous law, right? Which defeated his laws, which would be for another moral class, right? No, we reached the lower the way we spent with Salah, which is another damn distinction between that, right? So we dumb as hell. That's not giving the people an education. We made like based by the topic. And then like I just don't want to investigation. I don't even use them. So if you're gonna get rid of my semantics because you're such a retard, you cannot even stop me with counteract this. You cannot track and no
Hey, hey, guys. Hey,
education
guys.
from going
Hey,
off
guys.
What
like
is
Hey,
Seiba even saying? I
hey,
don't really
guys.
understand a
no,
word.
This
no,
how
no, like
he's
it's gonna help.
attacking everything,
I'm
but
gonna
the
do it
point
to
is
you. It's
that
just what
like,
I'm
this
gonna finish
has to.
this. I'm
Hey,
gonna
hey,
finish
hey,
this.
hey.
There's a
This how you know you're winning, guys. When your own opponent can't even attack the same
things.
argument, he's attacking all these other arguments you made because he realized that he can't do shit about it. Guys. That's how you know you're winning. Now, what? in this debate, so y'all
brother to be left out. So when you use the definition, I suggest a colloquial definition.
give a round of applause for trying.
Definition, so one holds all that's themselves. Right? So it's the local definition, right? A colloquial definition is the power consensus. I can say it's not going on for the so it's talking. Why a definition? You may want to come out with you say like confident.
Okay, who is playing soundboards?
Bro, wait, so
Stop playing
one of
soundboards.
the last things is someone who teaches them that's just a revelation from God, right?
Hey, I ain't gonna even lie, bro. You're yapping too much. Go ahead and finish your argument, bro. Please, like you're yapping. Holy
yeah. That's how you know you're losing, faggot. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna mute you if
Oh.
99% of your argument is just straight
What
insults.
the fuck?
You can say what you want to say about me, but 99% of your arguments is insults. You're not even attacking the argument, bro. You suck. You suck. You suck. Stop insulting. You suck. You suck. You suck, Seiba. You truly do. You need to go back in a room, bro, and learn some more because you're getting beat, and it's embarrassing. Like it's not even close. I'm trolling you, and you're losing. I'm not even trying to fucking bro, just quit, bro. Forfeit, bro. You're gonna lose. Forfeit.
Hey, I'm asking you a question. You contracted.
I'm not. No, I'm gonna let you finish your point. I'm gonna let you finish your whole point down. I'm gonna answer your question because you've been talking for too long, and you're not even trying to let me give an argument to refute anything you said. So if you want to ask a question, I have every right to answer your question once you're done with your argument. So I'll do that. So finish your argument. I'm gonna answer your question. Then I'm gonna give my response to you. Then you can reply to my answer to your question once I'm done with my argument.
So let's just say I'm done with my point, right? Because I attacked your main point of you trying to dismantle
No,
this law.
you did not.
Yes,
No.
I did.
No, you did not.
Okay, so you know, go
No. I heard everything you said, and none of it was my main point because you suck. I'm gonna be honest with you. You just suck, so you don't know how to outline the main argument. So, are you ready to go ahead and lose? Can I go ahead and end it? Can we go ahead? Seiba, listen, bro. I get that. Good boy. You did a good job. Listen, bro. You're unclear, bro. Calm down. Seiba, listen, calm down. You did a good job. I understand your point. Go ahead. Stop getting assaulted by what I'm saying. I'm doing that to distract you from my main point. The reason why you're losing right now. The reason why you're losing right now, the reason why you lost the kill, bro, because you're so emotional. It's a debate. You notice how this whole debate I haven't got emotional not once. You've been the only one who been getting emotional and resorting to insults. That's why the fuck you're losing. Now again, like I said, I don't care about anything else you say. I'm gonna just miss all of that by fucking shotgunning and hinges razors. I'm gonna be honest. Majority of that shit was just rumble. We couldn't even hear you clearly. You were so fucking unclear. The majority of your argument just came out of that's all the fuck you were saying. Now again, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what my main argument is. My main argument was my last point. I don't give a fuck about the Islamic point. I don't give a fuck about the Quran point. If you didn't attack my main argument, then you fucking lost. What you did not do. Secondly, even if you did attack it, you yourself already agreed that my argument itself have a state or have the quality of state of being real, aka existing. Which is the part of which you agree with. I never said you agreed to the truth part, but I did provide evidence on how you're agreeing that my stuff had the quality of existing or have the quality of being real, do lead to the conclusion of you agreeing to my argument being true. That's how I proved my argument was true in the first point. So since you now just went against that argument, if you did win against the argument, because I don't think you did at all, because the majority of your fucking argument was focused about some other bullshit that you yourself got emotional to because you want to call yourself a fucking Muslim, which I generally don't believe you're not. You're a Muslim. Most of your fucking beliefs align with fucking Christian than Muslims. I don't know why you calling yourself that in the fucking first place. Secondly, nigga, like I said, you just lost, nigga. You just lost to this one simple argument. Your argument B contradicts your argument A. Both cannot be true. Both cannot be true at the same time. Therefore, making both of your arguments invalid. Since you no longer have an argument to continue with the argument, and evidence that I give, we can only follow the logical conclusion. We can only follow the logical conclusion that the conclusion of my point, therefore, being my argument is true. You conceded. True. You have conceded to that point. My bad. So yeah, bro. We can go ahead and end this right here, right now.
We
Do
can
you
just start.
mind if collector be judge or fighter or
No,
something?
no,
Because
no. I don't
I
care.
just want
I don't care about mistakes. I don't want their judgment of books because, like, listen to me.
Where's
I
my
don't
name?
want. I prefer consensus. I prefer consensus. I don't want their judgment. I want judgment from external sources who are actually
okay,
competent.
sure. I don't care. Okay, sure. Okay, we can give a judgment for say Singis himself. He's an external source, and he was actually here to watch the whole dialect, not just part of it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
Not
care
said
about
really.
judgment.
people. I
Uh,
Okay,
don't see
listen, I'm gonna
collective
give.
I could just appeal direct. I could just appeal
I'm
direct.
gonna give.
You don't
Listen,
want.
I'm gonna give judgment. Okay, sure, that's fine, Singis. I'm gonna get my judgment for Singis. You have every right to get your judgment for here, but I'm gonna tell you this right here, right now. This me telling you this as a friend. I've known you for a very long time. We debated multiple fucking times. All of it ended with you losing. So I'm gonna tell you this. Every time you debate, or just like when you debated Kel yesterday, I believe, or that was the day before yesterday, you have us think you are good at the start, but the moment someone insults you or gets you off yourself or start to provoke stuff like, oh, bro, you're dumb, or just like this, you get very emotional and you start to go off track. That's how Kel beat you. That's how you lost this point. You didn't know what argument was my main fucking argument because you sit it right here and got so fucking emotional to the point you start to believe you start to bring in what you believe into this shit, which is why you start to now go on a rep and started taking all my points I made about the Quran and Islam, which at that point I told you that I didn't give a fuck about. So you essentially just attack sub points that didn't matter at all. The only point that had that matter, which you had to attack, is whether your argument itself would it tell a contradictory or not, which is what you didn't attack. And then I told you before you tried to attack my argument that was what the fuck I was gonna argue. You yourself didn't want to fucking listen because you think you're so smart, you're such a good fucking debater that you didn't even attack that one point. And you fucking lost. All your conjunction shit, they just get missed by your hinges razor. You gave no evidence or hypothetical evidence or to back anything up. All you did was just gave reasons. I can just sit right here and argue that the reasons you gave was just falsifiable reasons, via not being able to via the duct test logic or by just using the razor of what it called the razor of testing. I'm gonna call it the razor testing, but it's essentially dumbed down to in order to follow the truth, or order to decide the truth, or order to get the truth of something or the conclusion of something, you must first perform a test. And in this test, you use a state of quality of things in order to get the direct answer you want. You notice the whole debate when I when I gave my argument about whether you acknowledging my argument is going to lead to my argument being true or not, I gave various examples of multiple tests. That's what I did. You didn't contend with them. The razor itself entails that if this test can be connected through multiple examples or through multiple forms of evidence, which is what I did, by the way, even going into multiple examples or multiple definitions of words, even analytical definitions, which is what I argue, which is what you yourself didn't come to the text. These was all just tests in order to follow my conclusion. So you already lost right there because when you even try to give your contention to it, yes, it was a good contention. I'm not going to doubt you, but all you did was just appeal to a bunch of logical rhetoric. Then I could just sit right here and tell you, prove that the logical system you are using is going to lead to your argument being more possible the case than my argument. You yourself wasn't able to do that because you got in your fucking feelings and you start to just take other shit that you also didn't hurt that point. So essentially, bro, Swampy, this whole fucking argument, you was debating your fucking self. I would give an argument. I would then insult you because I know you're gonna fucking lose or you're gonna get bad once someone insults you, which did work in my favor, which then just lead to you trying to debate your fucking self because you want to convince yourself in your fucking mind that you're a better debater on me based off your fucking emotions. I guarantee you, if you go watch it or rewatch this debate, bro, not one argument you yourself made use fucking logic. Every argument that you gave was based off how the fuck you felt at that point. And I know this because based off your actions and based off how you express yourself to be, which wasn't logical, but it was a very emotional person. So essentially, you lost to your fucking self. That's how you lost to kill. That's how you lose debates. Anyone can assault you. Anyone can call you a bitch. Anyone can say Islam is false. Anyone can say anything. I can say something about Prophet Muhammad. You're gonna get mad, and then once you get mad, you're gonna be trying to assault people. Then once you assault people, you don't actually try to get arguments. You just try to assault people. And then that's how the fuck you lose. Now, I'm telling you this because I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, when Phoenix gives his verdict, he for to see the same exact sound downstage. Once he watched that recording and see what happened in the recording, he for the thing give you the fucking clips of where you sit right here and just throwing out thousands of fucking assaults without an actual argument to contend with anything. This just me telling you, bro. There are levels to this. I can say you suck. I have the fucking accolades to say you suck. Uh, do that mean I'm in my feelings? No. You notice how every time you assaulted me, you notice how every time you talk to me, all I did was say, okay, guys, give me a round of applause. Okay, Seiba. Okay, Seiba, you doing good. It's because, bro, I've been assaulted thousands of fucking times, Seiba. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say to get me in my feelings. So you can believe you won. That's fine. But I guarantee you don't actually think you won. The only reason you want to say you won is because you feel some type of way about what I said to you in the debate, which is you just going to be acting out your feelings. I said I won simply for the fact that you didn't even contend with the main point that was actually going to lead to you winning the debate. All you had to contend with was whether the argument that you gave in order to attack my final argument was actually contradictory or not. You couldn't even fucking do that because you want to be so in tune with how the fuck you feel. It is me telling you this is a debater. I don't really care about whether you are my friend or not, or my friend or not. They don't dictate whether I'm going to be real with you or not. It's me being real with you, whether you're my friend or not, whether I've known you for many years or not. Bro, you lost. And bro, you in that debate, that's not to say but I know. That's not to say but I seen the debate. I don't know who the fuck you been around, who got you like this, bro. But you got it way worse. You know a lot of shit. But you essentially lose to a fucking history's razor because you never ever provided any evidence to back up anything.
Because I never got to him refute it, bro. You never let me refute it. You couldn't screenshot to a different place, which you just shot at me. No, no, no.
No, Seiba. No, no, Seiba, let me correct you on it. Let me correct you on it. Seiba, let me correct you on it. Let me correct you. I did say that. I'm gonna correct you. I didn't move on to different points. Again, this is why I presented to that these are just sub points for the entire point. The entire point is whether your interpretation of my interpretation is true. We're arguing on which interpretation of this thing is most likely to be true. That was the main point. I then already gave you evidence and multiple examples on how us arguing whether by the Quran on whether each other definition is more reliable to go based on, that's just a sub point. Us arguing on whether Muhammad is a prophet or not, that's just a sub point. That's not the entire point. I already gave you that. That was the way I was viewing it. So when I gave all of this argument, it was one point. It was forced to prove one point. It was just sub argument, which you yourself
not
doesn't
letting you get a
understand.
refutation in.
You yourself
So
look
first
at
of all,
debate or look
Hitchens'
at
razor
scriptural
is just
argument
fucking
different
circular
from
and
me
paradoxical.
because I
First
study
of all, you say
philosophy.
if there's no
So you
evidence,
fucking
then
got
it can be
beat up on
dismissed
it
without
because
any
you
evidence.
don't
Yeah, you're
understand
using
how
a
to view
fact or
arguments, and
substance that
two,
there isn't
you
any
don't
evidence to
understand
dismiss
the
that. So
structural or the
obviously,
structural
that
intricacies
logical
of a
condition
debate. You
is just
don't
going to be
understand that.
paradoxical and
You can
leads
sit
to a
right here and
fucking
say you
modal
understand
collapse.
anything,
That's
but
just
I
going to
know you don't
allow us
understand
to remove
because
the
you didn't even understand
contingency
what a
of
red
that damn
herring is.
proposition
Because
being
what
a
I
Hitchens
did, if
razor,
you actually
because of
understand what I
Hitchens'
did,
razor
was
not
even a red
actually
herring.
making any
Even if it
sense.
was, it was a
So
very
again,
big
that's going to be
red herring
debunked
that
and
could be easily
isn't even
disproven because
applicable
I
because you're
know you
just
don't
using
actually
something that's
understand what the fuck
illogical
you're
at
doing.
that point.
And two, when you
And
brought up
again,
that
let's
my
get
stuff
on with the other
exists
thing.
as a
Your own fucking
oppositional
refutation, right?
conditional or as
You
a
tried
set
to sit
thing,
here and
or
say
when
I
you
didn't
look at how
actually
to argue that
refute
you
what
gave
you
a
said about the true
conditional
value because you
unconditional for
disregarded
your
the
fucking
entire
argument,
Islamic
nigga,
debate
the
because you get
conditional is just
punched on.
proven as long as
You're a
the
little
source
cooked, by the way.
that as long
So
as the source that is
let's
used to
get on
justify
with this
the
like
conditional
refutation real
is
quick. Like let
disproven.
me just
Oh, the
repeat
conditional is
myself so you have
disproven
the
as long as you
chance
can
to
prove
hear
the
my
conditional
glorious
itself and the
points real
false
quick.
condition to go based on.
So
What I
again,
did, I didn't attack the
this
conditional
entire
itself.
point I
I
was
attacked
trying
the
to make
source
is that
that justifies
I
or that
agree
whole
to
basis
the
for the conditional to be
existence
asserted
of the
or for the
model of
conditional to be the case.
argumentation. The
Therefore, breaking
truth
down the
value
condition for the
is,
conditional
or
itself
it
would mean you would not
existing
have no conditional
correspondingly to
on the
reality,
debate or argument
truthfully,
on no longer.
is what
Any
decides
good
validity,
debater
right? If I agree to that
see that, bro,
description of
because you're not a
reality,
good debater. This is
if
me
the
being
truth
honest
value
with you.
exists within reality, then that's right.
No
But
one,
the
no
existence
one,
of the
no,
argumentation is distinct.
no,
I agree to a
no,
separate thing.
no.
You
Bro,
tried to
truth
place some
value doesn't
identity
exist in
on me
reality.
by
Truth value is something that
formatting
could
me.
possibly exist
You
in
didn't
reality. It's just
actually
a
listen to
possibility.
me,
That's what truth
and
value
this is what's
is.
going to
Truth
be a
value goes
collapse
into
within your
how the percentage
inference.
or how likely something
What
is
you
to be true.
do
I believe that
is not
everything has a
realize
possibility to
what
be
I'm
true,
saying.
which is
You're a
what truth
tracking
value goes
demon. You
into,
don't
right?
listen it.
But I don't
So at
believe
this point,
everything
there's
that
no
is a part
point
of
in
the truth
us for
value
us to
system is true.
continue.
That's a different argument.
You
So
can
when
just
you
go
agree that my
ahead
stuff is
and
real,
just give
that's
your
simply wrong
conclusion
because you're not
because you're
right.
not actually
You're no longer
attacking
arguing
anything,
from a truth
nor did you
value.
listen
You
to my
now argue
reasoning,
from a just a
and you
standpoint.
completely
You need
gave
to
up on the
understand the
Islamic point
difference.
and tried to move to
You
a
need to
different
actually
point
understand what
and
scripture and what a
shotgunned
truth
with a
value is.
different
Because you
entire
keep bringing up
argumentation
things,
too.
but you don't
Like
actually know
that's
what
how
it is.
fucking bad it is, bro. You got
Bro, okay, bro. You can say what you want to say. I'm gonna mute you because right now you're out of control. Singers, you can go ahead and give your verdict on it. So we can go ahead. And go. Hey, Swampy, if you want to get beat up again, next debate we can have, we can debate fictional characters. I'll just beat you up on that too. You can believe you won. I would have told you. You said I accept your belief and I accept you for what you believe in. But no one here think you won, and I'm pretty sure no one in the season can even argue that you was a fucking winner. I'm gonna just be honest with you. So like you can go ahead and do what you want to do, bro. Let's just end it here. Singers, go ahead and give your verdict. I would have told them why I beat you. So like you can go
Okay.
ahead and you can go ahead and say you can go ahead and say what the fuck you want to say.
All right.
We got
Well,
the recording.
so wait,
I
hold
can
up.
just feel the wreck. I could watch the whole entire wreck because I was here for. I'll like watch the whole entire wreck to see who actually won between you or Seiba. So I'll watch the whole wreck.